everyone, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Kaley. I have Sarah with me, and today we're gonna talk about how do you know he's the one. Now, just to preface, I am not looking like this is not advice for me. I mean, it is advice for me, but this is not current situation. I mean, we wish, but not yet. This is not. So this is for everyone. And so so I'm really excited to have Sarah on the vlog and talk about this conversation. But first, if you have not subscribed to this channel, please hit that red button below and follow me on my other social media pages. So, I know Sarah from church. I've known you for a while, but I feel like in the last year, we've gotten to know each other more. And she is just so full of wisdom. And I just always I feel like I've been going to you for advice and we're always talking about things and I'm just like, we need to have you on the vlog. So I feel bad that I have not had you on earlier.
It's been crazy though, for you too.
And as you can see, we're not in my living room. We're actually at Sarah's house because her kids are napping. And so...
Well, one's playing, so if you hear noise, that's him.
He's trying to stay out of the camera. So he's so cute. So so we're just gonna have a conversation, and I feel like this is a question you get asked a lot. Because how long have you been married?
So I've been married for 9 years, and throughout those years, I've worked in youth ministry, and I've had different jobs in the ministry where I've been around a lot of young adults. And more recently, like we've had interns and apprentices. So I've always been around that stage where people are looking or wondering if someone is the right one, or even if they should start dating, different things like that. And I know we've talked about that because of those conversations I've had.
And there's so many thoughts I feel like that people have. They're like, okay, is this just a fleshly desire that I have? Or is this really God speaking to me? Or you can just think, is this just out of my free will I want to do this? Or is this God really bringing somebody into my life? There's so many different ways this could go, your mind goes. And so Sarah's gonna help us just kind of steady the ship, bring peace to our minds.
And it's actually funny you said peace, because I had written down a couple of points, but my first one was actually, I'm gonna change it. My first one is peace. Corby and I, my husband's name's Corby, we have been together for 12 years and we were married 9 years. And in the very beginning, when we actually met at Camp Victory, which is here in Tulsa area. And he was just right off the bat, super strong. He knew that I was for him, where I was usually you hear the girl being super strong and then the guy, I was the opposite. I was like, oh my gosh, that's so overwhelming. But one of the things that helped me through a relationship is peace. He had that peace from the beginning. And I was a one step at a time piece. And he would even ask me at times do you feel like I'm it? Do you think I'm the one? I'm the one you're gonna marry for life? And I was like, I just know I have peace right now, and I'm led by that peace. And that reminds me of also in Psalms 23, when God says that he leads us beside still waters. For me, I was being led by still waters. And I also was verbal when I didn't have a peace about something. And thankfully, with Corby, I always had that peace. There was other times in college where there would be that little tiny thing or voice in my head saying this person was not right for me. I remember there was actually a guy in college that I really liked, had several classes with him. And then we had to get together on a what's the word I'm looking for?
A group date?
On a group discussion. We had to get together for a group discussion for class. And the topic was finances. And we actually did not believe the same at all. And it clashed. We just we're both arguing back and forth. And I was like, how could I go through my life living with someone where we didn't agree the same in finances? And that's a big deal, to have your finances the same, which is a point we can talk later on about, is a big deal. So peace is definitely number one.
That's so good.
Number two is, are you ready? You have to be ready personally. You have to have yourself, when you look back and you see yourself from a different point of view, would you say like that person has it together? When I say has it together, I don't mean like the perfect hair or the perfect makeup or the perfect outfit. I mean spiritually, emotionally, mentally. Are you a sound person?
Yeah.
Do you yourself already have time that you set aside with God, or that you walk through everyday life in peace, knowing that you are one with God, that you are confident in God, that you are not looking for others to fill you or to make you feel comfortable, to make you feel confident, that you already have that inside of you. Does that make sense?
That's really good. I love that. And I feel like too, we read the statistics, and everything was pretty much internal of like why like divorce is happening, and it was mainly because of personal issues that people were going through. Yeah. And it used to be, you know, like finances and just like all these things that, and why people weren't staying together, and now it's about you. And I think that's so important. Like,
yes, knowing who you are, because you don't want to be in a relationship blaming it on someone else when it's you who doesn't have it together.
Yeah.
One of the statistics that we looked at was actually emotional support of why people get divorced. And to me, I look at that and I'm like, you do want to support each other, but you don't need to have that. You don't have to be seeking for that in order to keep going on. Because if you're strong and confident and he's strong and confident, then you're gonna have an amazing relationship. You're gonna be able to not focus on building each other emotionally, but you're gonna be focusing on building dreams and fulfilling those dreams as a couple, you know?
That's so good, that's so good. Okay, what else do you got for us?
The other one, these all honestly fall in one accord with each other, but again, they're just little nuggets so that way you guys can see. Number 1 is peace. Number 2, are you ready? Number 3, that your values align.
That's so good. And you said that you even read that in a secular magazine, that they talked about values aligning. So if the Christians are saying your values should align and the secular world is saying that values should align, I feel like, duh, like everyone should make sure your values align. Like, I mean, because even when I talked to a guy, like, and he said that we had the same values, but the more I got to know him, I was realizing we weren't on the same page. And something my dad said to me that really like triggered me, he's like, are you willing to go to church alone someday? And I just was like, well, I'm like, oh no, that's not gonna happen. But then like the more I was like thinking about it, I was like, wow, his actions are showing like he's not going every week. Like, why would I even like open up the thought of like, he's saying he's gonna change, you know, down the road, but like if he's not doing it now, what makes me think he's gonna do it later?
Right, that's such a big deal too. Especially like with your values, you don't wanna spend your time fighting over like who's right and who's wrong.
Yeah.
You wanna, again, you don't wanna be unequally yoked, like the Bible says, you wanna be balanced out with each other.
So good.
Which brings me to number 4, balance each other out. I was actually telling Kaley, one of my favorite things to do is I love watching people, and I love watching how couples balance each other out. I like seeing where one is strong in one area, the other is strong in a different area, and it just blends beautifully. And one example I was telling Kaley, it's not exactly like a characteristic, a strength thing, but I remember I was like so worked up, and I came home, and I was just telling Corby, and I was like, nah. And he just was so calm. And he was like, you know what, everything's gonna be okay. Everything's gonna be okay.
Yeah.
And I was like, why aren't you worked up with me?
Yeah.
And then it was just one of those perspective changes where I was like, I was blowing it out of proportion, and he was very grounded for me. And then it's actually happened several times in the other the other direction.
That's so funny.
Where Corby, you know, he would be super worked up, and I would just be cool as a cucumber. And I would like to think, but you know, it's just, and it's beautiful to see that, because God has the right person for you, and that person is not going to, you know, make you out of balance, but it's gonna make you balanced. And then the iron sharpening iron, you're gonna get stronger. You're gonna be a better person because of that.
That's so good.
So
I love it. Okay, was that point 4?
That was point 4.
Okay.
Point 5. So we have a total of 6 points.
Okay.
Point 5, treat each other with kindness and respect. This was actually also in a secular magazine.
What?
So like making sure that you guys, the values are aligned and that you treat each other with kindness and respect. And I say that because you will view things different at times. Just because your values are the same doesn't mean you won't have different viewpoints.
Because I feel like we're raised differently. I even see, like even with roommates, like, there's a way like I load the dishwasher, but a roommate might not load the dishwasher.
Yeah.
She might hand wash them, or something like that. I mean, I feel like we do things because that's what our parents did, or our families do.
Yeah.
So why wouldn't that be the same going into a relationship?
And nobody's family is better than the other person.
Yeah.
Even if you do think that.
Yeah.
And that's like, I feel like sometimes I'm like, well, this is how it's always been done, so this is the correct way.
Yeah.
But I feel like I'm a little more insistent on that than Corby is. Corby's very like willing to learn. And again, the strengths, balancing out the weaknesses and stuff like that. So he definitely stretches me. And so you want someone who's going to stretch you.
That's good.
But in that stretching, have great kindness and great respect for who you are as a person, as well as appreciate you. And you want to make sure that you have this in return. All these things that I'm saying, you don't want to make sure they're one-sided. You want to make sure that you have them too for that person.
That's so good.
Yeah. And then my last point is strong communication, being willing to talk about the hard things. You and I were talking about that, how there's so many topics or how you feel personally, that goes back to that emotional support, things that you are feeling about something that maybe they did or maybe someone's done to you, and it's something that you need to talk about. And you've already gone to God. And because they always talk about that phrase or saying where it's like, don't go to the phone, go to the throne.
And it's so true.
But it is so true. But also with your spouse, you should be able to trust your spouse with the hard things.
Yeah.
How you're feeling, what you're going through. And that's not easy for me, Kaley. And I'm sure it's not easy for a lot of people.
Yeah.
But that's what's so incredible about when you are with the right person, is though it's hard, it will be hard in doing that, because Corby and I have had hard conversations that always turn into laughter. Thank you, Jesus.
They do. There's one thing is these two, they laugh all the time. Yeah, which is great.
But with that said, is you have to be willing to say what's on your heart, because that will just get you stronger. Corby and I, we went through a miscarriage before we had our daughter Kylie, and he took it a lot harder than I took it. And it was hard, don't get me wrong, it was incredibly hard. But he held on to it longer. And I remember it was a year later at Christmas and we already had Kylie, and he was like, I'm still struggling with this.
Wow.
But it took him a while to say it to me. And when he said it to me, I didn't want to respond, well, why aren't you over it? We have Kylie.
Yeah.
But it was still another life. It was still a big deal to both of us. And I didn't want to devalue him in that moment and shut off his feelings, but I wanted him to be able to talk about it. But all these things that I mentioned are things that will help you in finding the right person for you.
That's so true.
And knowing if you guys are compatible together.
No, I love that, man. This is just a wealth of knowledge. I mean, I think it's great. Most of it is common sense, I feel stuff. But sometimes when you're in that love bubble, you don't realize it. And so I think if you can go in having this mindset and preparing yourself, I think in the end, that's what's gonna help you know and have the peace. Okay, is he the one? And like you said, Corby, he knew right away.
Right off the bat.
And stuff, but it took you time.
Yeah.
And I think his patience of like not scaring you and not telling you right away,
Yeah.
I think was just wisdom on his part, because who knows, maybe you would have like fled the scene. I don't know. No, I'm glad you did it.
Cold shoulder.
Yeah. But I think that's so good. I thank you so much.
Yeah.
Do you have anything else that you want to share?
I think the only other thing I wanted to add to all that is, with all those things, these things should allow you to be who you are. And should be allowed to be who he is. And because when you enter in a marriage, you are to be yourself. You're not to be what they want you to be or who you think you should be, but you're to be who God created you to be.
So good. I love it. Well, I hope you guys loved this vlog too. Be sure to give it a thumbs up. Yes, thank you for being here, and we'll see you all next week.
See ya.
Bye.